Greetings, travelers.
Yes, greetings, travelers. Wow.
So
Erica?
I don't know if I'm prepared for this, but I just want to start this episode with Robert is the most handsome, wonderful boy in the world.
Yes, yes, because we are not talking about our most handsomest, wonderful boy in the world. We're going to talk about his neighbors.
Okay. Are we talking about the chickens that live on Key West? Because that seems like a kind of boring episode.
Well, we're going to talk a lot about Key West. I don't know how much of the chickens are going to come into it. One of the persons, they called us out on an email and I had to address it. They said, "Hey, you haven't done a lot of travels recently." And I apologize for that. We usually are very good about throwing in a travel or two on every episode. So we're going to be better about this. So I decided to do a destination episode. This is a whole history on one location. So
Oh, cool. And what is that location, my friend?
we just said it, Key West, baby.
Hey,
And so we've got to get in the Wayback Machine and go back to the summer of 1980.
that sounds like we're going to go in between, like when cocaine starts to become very popular in the 80s. Is that what we're
You
talking about?
you may have found some precursors to what I'm going to be discussing. So
Oh, I can't wait. Tell me about it.
all right. Well, first story we got to talk about is where they get the name, the Conch Republic, right?
Oh
Uh,
my god, yes. I think a lot of
I
people don't know this story, but it's kinda hysterical.
it's just buckle up, gang, that don't know it. For those that do, believe me, I've got a lot of stuff we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
So, first thing first is so that spring of 1980, there was the Mariel boat lift out of Cuba, which a
Mhm.
desperate exodus began because U.S. said, "Hey, if you can get here, we'll take you." Talk about open border at the time. And so for 7 months, a flotilla of private boats shuttled across the Straits of Florida, mostly people who are, Cubans who were already over here wanting their family to join them. And they
Yeah.
were like, "You can get on the boat, we'll come get you." It's not that awful far, pretty close to Cuba, but it is still dangerous waters. The Straits of Florida, not so good. 125,000 Cuban refugees came to America's shores during that time. And the front door to all that was Key West, right?
Yeah.
And so for the Conchs, which is the people of Key West, they named themselves after the conch shell, sea creatures. It was a chaotic and overwhelming time, right?
Yeah.
The tiny island used to slow pace is suddenly a landing zone, and the government is scrambling to process the influx. And they've even set up like temporary facilities, and Key West is just strained to the breaking point, right? They just didn't know what to do.
Of
But
course.
the boat stopped coming.
But
And
just
prices
for people who haven't been there, sorry, Mark, just for people who haven't been there to give reality, how big is Key West?
not big at all. The size of a small town.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a few miles across from side to side.
Yeah.
And it's the end of an 11-mile, well, how many miles? It's much more than 11 miles. I want to say, I'm sorry, 11-mile bridges in Tampa.
I'm
It's
going to you keep telling the story, I'm gonna you Google.
giant bridge to get there from the mainland. It is a long, long haul to get from, the port and to down to Key West.
So
Uh,
Key West is 4 miles long and 1 to 2 miles wide with a total of 4.2 square miles.
yeah, tiny, tiny few blocks. And how long is the bridge to get there? Google that while I'm going on. So,
Go ahead.
all right. So, anyway, the federal agencies, though, were worried because all these Cubans were coming in. They were worried about drug smuggling, which was huge. And they heard that Cuba was using this option to get rid of prisoners and criminals, and they were emptying prisons, and they were also sending people who were in mental health facilities there, asylums there, and just put them on boats and sent them away. So they'd become America's problem. They didn't want to deal with them anymore. So federals said, we got to put something on this. We got to put a stop to this. So in the spring of 1982, they dropped the hammer. The US Border Patrol set up a permanent inspection checkpoint on the only road in and out of the Keys, US Highway 1, right where it meets the mainland.
which for the record is 6.79 miles, which is, by the way, 3 times as long as the actual highway.
Yep. Yep.
Anyway, super fun.
Alright, so anyway, this is a logical security measure for the
Yeah,
feds, but to Key West, they were being treated like a foreign country. Every car, every truck, every tourist heading to the island had to stop. So traffic backed up for miles and miles, 20 miles or more. And trucks carrying food and supplies for the restaurants and grocery stores, they were just stuck in the heat. And tourists, which is the lifeblood of Key West,
yes,
they just gave up and turned around. They weren't even going to reach that bridge. So it was it was a giant traffic jam.
which
So
is not good down there because this isn't a huge, like, 8-lane highway, this is way smaller than that.
yep. So get used to this next guy because he's in a lot of the stories coming up. So Mayor Dennis Wardlow and the city council, they pleaded with the federal government, "Come on, we gotta do something. You're killing us." They pointed out the Keys is not a foreign nation. They're an American community, and, they just were ignored, and, they made a lawsuit to try to
Okay.
remove the checkpoint, but it failed. So, Mayor Wardlow, God bless him, he said in his quote, well, hell, if they're gonna treat us like a foreign country, we're gonna become one." And so on April 23rd, 1982, they did it. He stood on a flatbed truck in front of the old custom house, and Wardlow read a proclamation of secession. He declared the Florida Keys independent from the from the United States. They named their new nation the Conch Republic, after the hardy sea creatures there.
I love that. I love that you can just be like, "Okay, fine. We've changed our mind. We don't wanna be a part of this anymore.
Yep.
We have decided cake or death. We land a
Yes.
flag." I love
Yeah.
it.
So what happens next is amazing. So to make their point in the most theatrical way possible, they did what any new nation would do. They declared war on the United States.
I don't know that any new nation would do that, but it's an interesting concept.
So now Prime Minister Wardlow, no longer mayor, walked up to a man dressed in a US Navy uniform, and in a symbolic act of aggression, he broke a stale loaf of Cuban bread over his head.
Interesting choice.
Right? Now, this war is epic in the annals of American history. It lasted exactly 1 minute because Prime Minister Wardlow stood before the same sailor and formally surrendered.
I love this guy. I love
I
this guy. He
Probably
was doing this because I feel like he should have been drunk when he was doing it.
it's Key West, very likely, or more likely, what you were saying earlier,
The
Key
cocaine
West.
guy?
Yeah, probably. So, he had a Coke and a smile. Alright, but anyway, he was now saying he had been soundly defeated by the superior forces of the United States, and the Conch Republic did the only thing it could do. It requested foreign aid. They needed $1 billion to rebuild their nation after years of federal oppression.
Oh, I love this. This is very appropriate.
Yep. So the media, of course, loved it. The image of a micronation surrendering before anyone even knew there was a war. Come on, that's comedy gold.
Yes.
It's so every news channel, every newspaper in the country was carrying it, and it worked. The protest worked. The roadblock was just gone, and because it was a national embarrassment at that point. So they lost the
Yeah.
war, but they won the peace. All right, so skip ahead to 1995, September 1995. You got to change your outfit in the Wayback Machine here. Uh,
Obviously, yeah. definitely cannot wear what I was wearing in 1980 and 1990. Nope,
Yeah,
nope, nope, nope,
yeah.
nope.
We went from Madonna to Britney Spears. Here we go. So,
In a
uh,
heartbeat. Go for it.
yeah. All right. September 1995, the 478th Civil Affairs Battalion of the U.S. Army Reserve scheduled a routine training exercise.
Okay.
So their scenario was to simulate an invasion of a foreign island to practice how they would interact with a local population.
Okay.
Guess where they chose to train?
That's a terrible idea. I can already tell it's a terrible idea.
They went to Key West. But there was one small problem. They forgot to tell this foreign island that they were coming. So now also loose lips sink ships. So word of it reached the offices of the Conch Republic. Prime Minister Wardlow saw this not as a drill, but an act of war.
I love that he's still mayor after all this time. I love
Oh,
that.
yeah, he's still the mayor. Oh, he's still Prime Minister Wardlow at this time. He's no longer mayor, but he is still Prime Minister of the Conch Republic. So he mobilized the forces of the Conch Republic for a full scale domestic defensive response.
What does that even mean?
So here we go. On September 20th, my birthday of 1995, the Conch Republic Navy, which was a determined fleet of fishing boats and sports boats, and they were led
God.
by the historic battle schooner, the Western Union. Um, they they set sail to meet the invaders of the imposing force, which was a U.S. Coast Guard cutter that was going to participate in the exercise. And what followed is one of the most amazing naval engagements in modern history.
Okay.
Uh, the Conch forces launched their assault with their traditional weapons of water balloons, conch fritters, and that iconic stale Cuban bread. Now, the Coast Guard, probably a little caught off guard by this being pelted with baked goods. So they responded with their fire hoses, and it quickly ended the battle because everybody got soaked. So now, the next day, the victory was declared because, again, the media was on the side of the Conch Republic.
Of course it
So
was.
the leaders of the 478th Civil Airs Battalion issued a formal apology. In the statement, I mean, this has got to be crazy because they wrote, how do you write this with a straight face? We in no way meant to challenge or impugn the sovereignty of the Conch Republic. I
I
love
love
that.
that.
So, to make amends, the US military agreed to a formal surrender. And on September 22nd, the representatives of the 478 stood before the Conch Republic and symbolically surrendered. So, and again, Prime Minister Wardlow, their captain on the head with a stale piece of bread. That's a heck of a ceremony, right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, I just love that they, were able to do that for themselves 'cause, well done, well done.
Oh, no, it's, and everybody loves the story where the little guy wins. Come on.
Yes.
It's one
Yes.
of the few times America has surrendered in battle. So, um, now the Great Sea Battle, as it is called, is reenacted annually during the Conch Republic Independence Celebration.
And
And,
when is that?
the Coast Guard dutifully surrenders once again every year, and I forgot to look up the year. My apologies
I'm
to the
gonna look
date.
up the dates
Yeah,
because
yep,
I am ya Googling.
yeah, we're gonna have to go there. So, uh, all right. So now, later that same year was the first time the US government shut down. Remember that? That used to not be a thing. And
It
then
used to
suddenly,
not be. Oh, it's April 17th through the 26th. It's
there
an
we go.
annual 10-day festival.
Yep.
I
There
love
you go.
that they did all this in a day, and now it's a 10-day festival of I
It's
love
Key
that.
West. Everything's good takes is slower in Key West. Come on.
Yes.
So, all right. So the government shut down, and it was the first time in living memory that everything just stopped. So national parks and monuments were closed and their gates were locked, and the Rangers were mostly sent home. So for the Conch Republic, again, economic hit. The Dry Tortugas, which
Yep.
is a huge cluster of islands about 70 miles west of Key West. They're home to Fort Jefferson, which is a huge 19th century fortress. It's a huge tourist attraction down there.
Yeah.
Well worth your day trip. So tour operators in Key West for Thanksgiving or Christmas holidays, they always went there, right? That's a cool place to take your tourists.
Yeah.
But um, so the Conch Republic's Secretary General Peter Anderson, he said it was a nightmare. So he saw an opportunity because Wardlow was busy. He said, because we're already crazy with the shutdown, he was sending daily fax blasts to news organizations with messages like Day 7, Conch Republic remains open. Passports are available. So, you know, they gave him a mention in the Miami Herald on Thanksgiving Day, and he replied, "This is a day truly to be thankful for." But yeah, I love the Conch Republic guys. So he found out that private donations had kept a Vermeer art exhibit open in Philadelphia during the shutdown. So Anderson and Wardlow figured out a plan. They said,
Okay.
let's contact the tour operators. And they all agreed to underwrite the $1,000 a day cost to reopen the fort. The problem was there was no one at home at the National Park Service to take the money.
Oh,
So the Conch Republic decided to take matters into its own hands again, and they announced that they would storm the fort by seaplane to reopen it. And they agreed they were going to bomb the fort with stale Cuban bread prior to landing in order to soften them up for the assault. Okay. So before launch, Anderson, who was a single father, needed to get home to cook for his daughter. He did something very responsible. He actually called the park superintendent, and this was a man named Dick Ring. You cannot make this stuff up. I'm sorry.
okay.
The
I
man-
let go for any listeners that are under the age of 18. Okay.
so Ring's response is bureaucratic gold, right? He tells Anderson dropping bread on the fort would be a pretty serious environmental crime, and it would also be a rat problem. So he decided, you know, you would probably just get a citation and not really arrested. So Anderson's like, okay, that's it. We're doing it. So he climbed into the Cessna, and he had a co pilot and a young reporter. And as they got close to the fort, though, the weather turned terrible. The wind had picked up, the waves were becoming dangerous for the small plane. But because the mission was so urgent, Anderson insisted that the pilot set down in the choppy water. And they taxied to the beach where there was a group of park rangers to meet them. And Anderson, in his brilliant move, he had brought copies of the Sunday newspapers because the rangers had been cut off from the mainland. They hadn't seen them in months. So he then presented a proclamation declaring the park open for the Conch Republic and handed the rangers a check for the $1,000. And they refused, but he insisted, and he said, "If nothing else, it's gonna make a great souvenir, guys." And then he asked for his citation for entering the closed federal area, but they said, "No, we're not gonna do that. We don't wanna give you a ticket." He's like, "I refuse to leave until you give me one."
Oh, I love this guy already.
Yep, and now the weather's getting worse. The pilot's like, "We gotta get the F out of here." And they climb into the seaplane, and they turned into the wind, and the waves were so steep, the plane just kept getting knocked and knocked. Before they actually had enough speed to fly, they were actually getting knocked into the air. And one of the one big wave knocked them into the air, and they had a stall warning, but they got into the sky. And Anderson later put it as these quote, "There was not a dry seat on that airplane, and it wasn't the rain."
I think I would have been with them on that because
Yep.
that, yeah, that sounds like that would have ended badly.
So the Conch Republic made a statement saying that they had successfully invaded and reopened the national park and that they delivered the check that the government wouldn't accept, and they got a citation that they had to demand. Okay.
You almost gotta go, "Is this actually to happen?"
Yep. Yep. So, now 2013, we had another shutdown. Remember that one?
Yeah,
And that one closed the Florida Bay within Everglades National Park, and it threatened a lot of fishermen guides. Their livelihoods were just going to be gone. So the Conch Republic organized a flotilla protest, and they flew the Conch Republic flag high, and because they wanted their access to the park's waters, and their income had been cut off.
yeah,
So, and what just a month earlier, the fishing community had raised money through the park through a tournament, and he's like, all this money that we raised for the park, and they can't even use it. And so, as always, they showed up, made a scene, and said, "You know what? We're here." All right. One last story. 2006. Um, Again, Cuban refugees land on a section of the old 7 Mile Bridge.
okay.
And this was the original span of old Henry Flagler's railroad to get out to Key West. And it's pretty much a you know, deteriorating structure. It's right
Mhm.
there next to the highway bridge, but it's fallen into disrepair over the years, and several spans are missing, and it's no longer connected to land anywhere. So this boat lands there with Cuban refugees. So this is a weird problem for the US because we had the wet foot dry land policy, or wet foot dry foot policy, right?
Yeah,
So if you reach dry land, you're generally allowed to stay. Well, if you're caught off shore by the Coast Guard or whatever, you have to go back to Cuba. So what about these people standing on a piece of abandoned concrete in the middle of the ocean?
oh, I bet that's not in the guidebook.
Yeah. So the government did not want to set a precedent. So they made a ruling. They said that because the old bridge is no longer connected to the land, it is not, in fact, US territory. So they were considered wet, and they were going to be repatriated to Cuba. So this is
But
the Conch Republic. This is a gift. So the Secretary General, again, Wardlow is retired at this point, but the Republic's Secretary General, Peter Anderson, saw the loophole immediately. He's like, since the federal government declared in its infinite wisdom that the old 7 Mile Bridge is not the territory of the United States, the Conch Republic is very interested in annexing it. So, January 13th, 2006, the Conch Republic launched an amphibious assault.
launch water balloons at it? What was the emphasis?
Their giant fleet of 2 fishing boats that sail from the 7 Mile Marina in Marathon, and as they departed, they played the Sonny and Cher song, "I Got You, Babe," as loud as they could on the stereo. Alright, their target was the concrete piling where they had landed, but upon arrival, the invasion force was clad in pirate hats and had their long Cuban stale bread in sheaths, and they scrambled up the bridge. And then Peter Anderson, Secretary General, performed the official rite of conquest. To do this, he blew the conch shell horn, brandished the sword of state, which was Cuban bread speared on a rapier, and planted 2 Conch Republic flags. And he declared the area around the piling and 20 feet in either direction to be the sovereign territory of the Conch Republic.
I love that so much.
Yeah. So he was going to offer 50-foot sections of the bridge to people who wanted to build eco-friendly, affordable housing. He was gonna call them bridge sacks. Uh, and, but he was like, they have to have composting toilets, solar panels, wind turbines. Could be a model community. But, state of Florida, unamused. The spokesperson for Florida said, "With all due respect to the Conch Republic, The bridge belongs to all the people of Florida, and we are not currently in negotiations to sell it. So, the community never materialized, but man, what brilliant success there.
Wow.
And, so the US government did reverse its, decision about the bridge. And, though the refugees had already been sent back to Cuba, but they said now anybody who makes it there will be allowed to stay. So,
See, they actually, as humorous as these stories are, though, and they are humorous because
yeah.
this is just something you'd wanna witness, this vicious fleet of 2 fishing boats with a rapier with okay. You
Yeah,
almost can't make this up,
amphibious
but
assault.
you have to give them credit for actually effectuating change several times.
Oh, yeah. No, this is brilliant. Wardlow and Anderson, oh my gosh, those 2 guys, they knew how to make a joke, and they knew it would work.
Yeah.
And, when you go down to Key West, there's so much Conch Republic stuff. They've made it a cottage industry. One of my favorites is a shirt. It's one of my favorite shirts. It says, "The Conch Republic, we seceded where everyone else failed."
Oh, next time we're down there, I need one of these shirts. I need
Yeah,
one of these shirts, Key West. It's
yep,
important.
yeah.
I would wear
So,
it with pride.
yep. All right. Well, we got one more fun one after this. It's an unsolved mystery after this.
Okay.
And then we'll get into the one that might give you some chills.
Okay.
So, we will be back after these messages.
Prepare to be devoured. The Wolves of Wharton is a 6-part complete book series by Eerie Travels producer Bo Lake. It has been called dark and visceral, steamy, dramatic, and a fresh take on the werewolf mythos. If you like action, adventure, a large serving of body horror, and some steamy relations, the Wolves of Wharton series is for you. Pick it up wherever books are sold or at linktree.com/bow__lake.
Oh, man. Did you enjoy your time at Margaritaville during the break?
Yes, I did very much so. Thank
No.
you.
Okay. The next story, I get to say my favorite words a lot.
Oh,
Are you ready?
I think so.
This is the making of El Jefe. All right. And the story is about his name. So, Joseph Anthony Bum Farto. Yep.
No words for that, but
Yeah.
continue.
He was born in Key West in 1919, and he was the son of a Spanish immigrants. He earned his nickname, honestly, because as a kid, he hung around fire station number 1, which, sat behind his house, and he would grab coffee and shine shoes of the firefighters. So they called him Bum, like a mascot, right? And at the age of 10, he actually snuck onto a fire truck that was answering a call for the first time. Oh. So he was fireman. He was ready. So he quit school in 1937 when his father died, and he had to work odd jobs to keep things going. He even had a stint at a funeral home.
Oh, wow.
But he officially became a fireman in 1942, and he started climbing the ranks over the next 2 decades. He was a lieutenant, he was a captain, and then in 1964, he was the fire chief.
Oh, wow.
Okay, but you gotta picture this guy, all right? So, here's Bum Farto. All right, he's a man in a blazing red leisure suit, gold jewelry all over his neck and wrists. He's got rose-tinted glasses hiding his eyes. He's got a double-headed fire axe pin on his tie, all right? He drove a lime green Ford Galaxy 500 with mirrored windows, chrome hubcaps, and a license plate that read El Jefe. the chief.
Oh my goodness.
All right. So now this was Bartow was deeply involved in Santeria, you know, the Saint Barbara kind of ward off evil spirits and stuff. So he had red everywhere. His house was red. He had red carpeting. This was to protect against the unseen, to protect against the evil.
Okay.
So,
Like you
yes,
do.
red's not a fashion statement for this guy. That's just a way of life.
Yeah.
So, but he was generally good at his job, right? He was really good at his job. He modernized the department. He boosted morale and response time improved dramatically. And he helped rescue a lot of those Cuban refugees washing ashore. And Key West was changing, and he kind of had to change with it. So let's go back 1969. There you go. And Key West in the 70s, right after it. Ready?
I
Dress
feel
that.
I could dress the same way in 2006 in Key West as I could in the '60s. I'm just throwing that
Yeah.
out there that I feel like I'm not having, even though we keep going in the Wayback Machine, I'm like, maybe I don't need to change.
Yeah. Key West is kind of its own Wayback Machine. So the
Probably
Tortuga shrimp grounds were closed in 1969, which killed the shrimping industry there because they
Yeah.
were overfishing. The Navy decommissioned its Key West submarine base in 1973. Boom, there goes all the Navy sailors. And then the Bahamas gained independence. And so they imposed strict regulations on lobster fishing. So now they've lost that.
Wow.
Right. So now those fishermen, their boats sitting idle. What are they going to do? They look a little south. And what's America's closest port? Colombia.
Yeah.
So the drug boom was on. And, the Navy boats that would patrol that, guess what? They're gone. And so, according to the Miami Herald, I love this. The major dealers bear the names of some of the oldest Key West families. And the purity of local cocaine was nearly 100%
Wow.
because of that. So now Bum Farto, he had connections.
Mhm.
So in 1955, he had married Esther Barrio, and her brother was named Ramondo. He was allegedly connected to Sam, quote, the Fat Man Cagnina.
That
And
sounds
now
like
he
not a
was,
great name.
we know him because he was the nephew of the Tampa Mafia boss, Santo Trafficante. Um, and Barto stepped into it, right? He got knocked into this. So now in 1975, federal and state law enforcement are launching a 6-month sting called Operation Conch. And they know the drug pipeline is going through Key West. And there's this confidential informant they got named Titus Walters. Okay.
I love the names. Even the
Yeah.
informant has a cool name. Titus is a
Yeah.
great name.
Yeah. Titus Walters, great name. So he was a 34-year-old with a huge criminal record, even had a murder charge behind him.
Oh,
And
well, he sounds delightful.
yeah, so he introduces undercover agent Larry Dollar to Bum Farto.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I was thinking Johnny Dollar, the old radio. But all right, the deal went down at the fire station. Barto was selling cocaine from his own fire department.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if that's gonna work out for them.
Yep. So on September 9th, 1975, handcuff day arrived. So Barto was the first of 28 arrests. And 200 people watched him get booked alongside Manny James, who was the city attorney and the son of a police chief. And it was a wild circus. And they went to the mayor, our good old boy, Wardlow, and said, "Did you know that drugs were being smuggled out of your, fire station?" I gotta assume it was very much like the Casablanca scene when they go to the police chief.
And
They're like,
I
he's
don't
like,
think
"I
they
am
do.
shocked to find that there's gambling going on in this establishment. Here's your winning, sir. Thank you." Exactly what I expected there. So now Titus Walters never saw these arrests, though,
Oh,
because 2 weeks before handcuff day, he was lured to a house on, Whitmarsh Lane, and a drug dealer named Bobby Marion Francis, who, Walters had already previously helped bust, was waiting for him, and, this is one of the most brutal murders in Key West history.
wow.
Francis forced Walters to his knees and shot him in the head, but he didn't die, so he bound him with duct tape, dragged him to the bathroom, shoved a washcloth in his mouth, and then he sent his accomplices for needles and Drano. He injected Walters with the mixture of drain cleaner, battery acid, and heroin.
Hopefully you didn't feel much.
Well, Walters still didn't die.
Oh,
So Francis forced a pillow against his head and fired 2 more shots,
oh
one
my
to the head
goodness.
and one to the heart. And then he came out of the bathroom laughing.
Just wanna say, to the Walters is the name?
Yeah.
Do the epic things. It is not that hard to kill someone with what you have available to if you had a pillow, smother him to death. Not that I encourage murder, but don't, "Hi, I shot him in the face, that didn't work. Will you guys go get some Drano, battery acid, syringes, and heroin? That's what I'm gonna need. We've got this." Who does that?
I have no idea. No
So
idea.
dumb.
But he went to the electric chair for doing that. Bobby Marion Francis. Good work.
Oh, we love old Sparky in Florida.
Yep. But Titus Walters went to the Key West Cemetery, and he was the first casualty of Operation Conch there.
Oh,
So
wow.
back to our good old boy Bum. Bum Farto stood trial in early February 1976. Guess how long the jury took to deliberate to convict him?
3 minutes.
30.
Oh, sorry,
Was
I wasn't counting the time to go into the room, get the paper out, come back out of the room.
Yep,
Yep,
yep.
got it.
They probably
30
had a
minutes.
sandwich while they were there or something, but, bathroom breaks. Alright,
Bathroom
but
break,
anyway,
come back.
he was due for sentencing. He faced up to 31 years in prison. So, on February 16th, 1976, he posted his $25,000 bail. He got into a rental car and drove north out of Key West and was never seen again.
So they let somebody who was convicted
Mhm.
go, okay.
He paid bail. He paid bail. He's waiting for
I
sentencing.
do understand that. How is that a
And
good plan?
alright,
You're
so
talking
anyway,
about a drug kingpin and you're saying, "Hey, here's this little sum of money. Can you" Yeah.
yeah. Well, anyway, his car turns up in Miami, but nothing else. So now everybody is like in Key West is like, "Oh my god." So, and one person walked into the police station and tore off his wanted poster because he said, and the chief didn't replace it because he said, "Everybody here knows what the hell he looks like anyway." So the local shop started selling t-shirts with the slogans, "Where is Bum Farto?" which you can still find. And then on the back of them, they would say something that would be like, "The answer is bums away." So another one said, "Whatever happened to El Jefe?" And and he's like, and people were buying them like crazy. And he's like, one of the shop guys said, "It's probably kids who like to do a lot of coke buying these shirts." All right, so now everybody's wondering what the hell happened to him. Was it organized crime keeping him quiet? Did he go live in Spain or Costa Rica? And our great Jimmy Buffett referenced him in his song Landfall. He said, "Bums down in Capo." Yeah. So
So do we know what happened to him or no?
this is the great mystery, right? What happened to Bum Farto? So Esther Farto, his wife, she waited for 10 years. She survived on $231 a month from Social Security. She also did babysitting and baking cakes to add extra because the FBI maintained they expected to catch him momentarily. But here's a decade later.
Yeah.
So she filed papers in 1984 to have him declared legally dead.
Okay.
And on March 21st, 1986, they signed the order. Yes, he's dead. She could collect his pension, which was about $5,000 that had already stockpiled, and two $1,000 insurance policies.
Mhm.
So she's quoted as saying, "You can't imagine what I've been through. No one knows what I've been through." But here's the thing: state of Florida has never closed the case. So the state attorney recently said Fardo's declared dead, but as far as the state of Florida is concerned, there is a warrant outstanding for his arrest for failing to show up for sentencing. If he's ever found, we will proceed with the case. So,
Wow. Well, the level of ineptitude in that particular situation is staggering.
yeah, I'm wondering if the guy who killed Titus Walters, got caught to him before he got away, or is he in somewhere in an unmarked grave, or did he make it to Costa Rica? Who knows? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. We don't know what his relationship was with his wife. He might have been happy
Yeah,
to be gone.
he might have done this to help her. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
it's kind of become a cottage industry. In 2020, there was a podcast called The Bum Farto Story, which dug into it. I listened to it. It's pretty fun. 21, Pamela Stevenson debuted Bum Farto the Musical, a true crime musical. It was like a ring, a sting, and an infamous Key West fire chief. And played in the San Carlos Institute on Duval Street down there. And it even had a tap dancing number in it. So
As it should.
as
As
it
it
should. Yeah.
it sounds like something akin to the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I appreciate.
Yeah. So he is Key West in a
How old
nutshell
would he
there.
be now? Wait, how old?
Well, he was born in 1919, so he'd be over 100 now or
Yeah,
close to
no,
that.
he's gone regardless, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think he's hanging out with Elvis. So
Probably.
probably. All right. Now we got to go into the one that trigger warnings for everybody. So here we go. You ready?
No, I don't like this. I'm not ready, but we're
All
going
right.
there anyway. When does it ever matter if I'm ready?
That's true. That's true. So we'll buckle up. So, all right. So we've got this man, Karl Tanzler. He was a German man and he claimed to be a radiologist with, he had a kind of a flair for the dramatic. He said he hailed from an aristocratic family and his name was Count von Kassel was his official title and real name. Yeah, he's not really a count and he's technically not a licensed doctor. But more importantly,
Those
he
2
claimed it
things
as a
don't sound great.
yeah. More importantly, he claimed that as a lonely 12-year-old boy in Germany, he had been visited by the spirit of a long dead ancestor, the Countess Kassel.
Okay.
And she said, here's a vision of a beautiful dark haired woman, and he sees her, and she is destined to be his one true love. And this haunted him for decades. It followed him through a failed marriage in Germany, and he immigrated to the United States. He's still dreaming about this woman. And it was prophecy that he
Okay.
won.
Wait, I just need to clarify. He is dreaming about somebody who has a familial relation to him.
No, no, his family relatives showed him this vision of this
Oh,
woman.
oh, it's like, "This is an ancestor. I don't care on the lineage. This doesn't work out well." Go ahead,
Yeah.
continue.
So,
I'm
all
sure
right,
this
19
isn't gonna work out well anyway, but
no, 1930. So Tanzler is probably in his early 50s around then,
okay.
and he's working as an X-ray technician at the U.S. Marine Hospital in Key West. Remember, he
Even
doesn't
though
have a
he's not a
license.
licensed doctor.
No, he just BS'd his way to become, an X-ray tech. Um, so he was good with electronics, though. He was good with electronics. So he was introduced to a patient, a young Cuban American woman named Maria Elena, or she was known as Helen Milagro de Hoyos. She was just 22 at the time, and she was just beautiful. And she usually wore a red rose behind her ear, particularly at local dances. But she was dying. She had tuberculosis, which was all over the island at this point. So when
They're
Tansler
all
saw
over
her,
everywhere at that point.
yeah, exactly. When he saw her, he was struck. And his quote was, "I looked into the face of unearthly beauty, the face of the bride that had been promised to me by my ancestor 40 years before." So
How old is he?
50s, and she's 22. He starts inserting himself into her life. He's like, "I can cure you." He moved into the family's home and
What?
he brought stolen hospital equipment and he started administering experimental x-ray treatments and brewing potions to protect her. And
Wow.
he showers her with gifts like pearls and flowers and everything. But there's no evidence that she was ever happy about this, right? There is no evidence that she was remotely doing this. But her family, which was so desperate because they couldn't afford care, they tolerated it, right? And now he proposed marriage, and she said, "F that. This guy's a little weird." But 1931, October 25th, Elena lost her battle with tuberculosis. Like I said, 22 years old. Sad, sad, sad. So
That
now
is
this,
unfortunate, and I'm sorry for her and her family. I
yeah,
already have the feeling where this is going. I don't like it. It's icky, but I
yep,
just already wanna say I'm sorry they lost her and anyone else who lost people due to tuberculosis.
yeah, terrible way to go. Terrible way to go. So
Yes.
now this did not end his obsession, right? With her. He paid for the elaborate funeral for her,
Okay.
and he didn't want to see her in the ground, so he built a giant, grand above ground mausoleum in Key West Cemetery, and he alone had the key. Um, he also put a phone in it so he could call her to talk to her from beyond the grave. He would go there for 2 years every night. He would talk to her, sing to her, bring her more gifts, and people saw it all the time and thought, "Wow, what a devoted man."
That's what they were thinking.
And he later claimed that her spirit was speaking to him and begging him to take her home. So, sometime in 1933, Tanzler used a wagon cart to cart her body to his house. And it gets crazier. So, for the next 7
Okay.
years,
It's already crazy, Mark. This
oh,
is
yes.
crazy.
Yep. So, for the next 7 years, he lived with her corpse and he was frantically preserving it. He put wire frames in her to hold her bones together. He used wax, silk, and plaster of Paris to replace any decaying flesh. He replaced her sunken eyes with glass ones, and he put a wig together that he had salvaged from her own hair over the months that he lived with her. Um,
You mean years that he lived with her?
yeah, live with her now. Yep, he dressed her in stockings, gloves. He put her in a wedding veil, and he actually kept
Oh.
her on his bed. And he would kiss her and whisper to her. She had been come back to life for him.
Oh, God.
And he had a tube inserted so they could have marital relations. Yeah.
That is disgusting.
Yep. His quote was, "I sank gently into the coffin with her and kissed her as if she were alive. Words cannot express the heavenly bliss that we were experiencing."
Oh, there are words, but they don't involve heavenly bliss.
No, no. He made a death mask of her when she was getting so bad so that it would be her face, restored her face. Now, 1940, everything kind of comes to a head, right? Because rumors have been circulating that Elena's tomb was empty because he hadn't been coming back to visit her. And her sister, Florinda, she goes and confronts him and says, "I want to see what you did." And he's like, "We need to find what you did." He goes, "Oh, it's fine. It's right in here." And he pulls open the curtain, and there she is lying there. And she said in her testimony It was the most grotesque thing I've ever seen in my life. What I saw will haunt me for the rest of my days. Yeah. So he was arrested and charged with wanton and maliciously demolishing, disfiguring, and destroying a grave. So this becomes a national news story, of course, right? So her body
Yeah.
was taken to a local funeral home, and over 7,000 people lined up to see the corpse bride. Local schools even let children out for the day to see this. That's very
Oh
Key
my
West.
gosh, I just Googled a picture of what this looked like.
Yeah, pretty crazy. So, we know Tansler's gonna be sent to prison, what, necrophilia, right? And all that?
One would hope, right?
Alright, so now the trial, public trial, hundreds of women came to the trial. They were in support of Tansler.
What?
They thought it was so romantic that he had loved her beyond the grave.
No.
I don't think they heard all the details. I think the dupe might have ended that. Alright, so he was acquitted. The prosecution was flawed. The statute of limitations on the grave robbing charge had expired, and in 1940, Florida had no law against necrophilia. And they had him psychologically evaluated, and they said, "No, he's perfectly sane." He had
By
a
who?
plane
Who said he was sane?
of 3 psychiatrists, state-appointed psychiatrists. He had built an airplane out of wood that didn't fly. It was called Elena's Airport, or Elena's Rebirth, and he was gonna fly up to the stratosphere, figuring if they could get struck by lightning, it would bring her back to life. And yeah,
Oh my gosh.
so anyway, Elena's family knew we had to do something, so they hid her body, never told him where it was. They reburied her in an unmarked grave in Key West, and only a few people know where that is. Tansler was heartbroken. He's like, "Can I have her body back, please?" And so he wrote his memoirs after he moved to Pasco County, and where Grady Judd is now. And he published fiction stories in various pulp magazines about ghostly love. And he died in Zephyr Hills in 1952.
Wow.
Now, here's the sad part of the story, if that's not sad enough.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's kinda like when you say this is a weird part of the story, because guess
Mhm.
what? That is not probably going to be the sad part of the story. The sad part of the story is this young woman died, and this
Yep.
man defiled her corpse.
Yep.
Ugh,
For years. Years.
years.
Okay. So Carl Tansler did have a wife. Her name was Doris Schaefer, and he had married her in Germany, 1920. And together they had had 2 daughters, Aisha and Clarissa. And they moved to the United States in 1926. And he didn't abandon them yet, but he sailed to Cuba. Well, they first came to Cuba, then they went to Zephyr Hills, and his sister, Carl, had already established herself there. But after getting situated, he sent for the family. Doris and the girls joined him in Zephyr Hills. And then the Count had other plans, because in 1927, he moved to Key West and got that radiology tech job and became Count Karl von Kassel. And he was a delusional aristocrat,
But he's perfectly sane.
of course. And poor Doris and the girls left behind in Zephyr Hills, abandoned. And Clarissa died tragically of diphtheria at just 10 years old.
Oh my god.
And Tansler was in Key West. He was already 7 years into his separation and 1 year into his life with Elena's corpse at that point. So when the scandal broke, Tansler was released from custody. He didn't go back to his family. Instead, he moved to Pasco County near Zephyr Hills, lived close to Doris, but she supported him all those years. He never went back to his wife, but she helped him financially. And he wrote that that was what helped him build his life-size effigy of Elena. And yeah, Doris outlived him by about 25 years. She didn't die till 1977. So now, while Carl was serenading this mummified corpse and buying her jewelry and dressing her wedding gowns, his wife was raising their daughters alone. Oh my God, right? That's just terrible. So Tansler died. And when they found him at his death, he was with that life size effigy of Elena. He'd made a new death mask for her as well. And he considered it the only bride he truly loved. And now there's one more twist to this. Just a few hours after he left Key West for the last time, there was a strange explosion in the Key West cemetery and it blew up the mausoleum he had built for Elena.
Wow.
Yep. So there we go.
Yeah.
All right. So, travelers, your travel for this episode is to go to Key West and
In the
just
Conch Nation.
join the Conch Republic, have a drink at Sloppy Joe's, go visit Ernest Hemingway's house, do the usuals. Great
Isn't
book.
there a bar there where Ernest Hemingway supposedly comes and
Yep.
sits and drinks?
Sloppy Joe's. Sloppy Joe's. He sits at the original Sloppy Joe's. The new Sloppy Joe's is still pretty cool. Has a grave in the floor of it from a lady named Elvira that everybody says is a witch. It's just because her name's Elvira. But there is a tree growing in it that was a hanging tree in town at the time. So
Oh,
grows up to the middle of the bar. There's a lot of pirate stories. There's a lot of other stories we could go into Key West, but I thought you'd like some of those. Now Elena's second, the life-size effigy he made, it is in Key West. It is in the Fort East Martello Museum, and she stays right in the room next to Robert. So you can do a twofer when you go visit the museum. See the
exactly.
bestest boy and respect the poor girl. So,
But respect the rules for both of these
yes.
individuals when you go there. Read them, respect them. Do not think they're a joke because they are not. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I learned a lot, and there's a T-shirt I desperately need. So
Yep. Which one you get? You gonna get "We succeeded where others failed" or "Where is Bum Farto"?
I think we succeeded where others failed is potentially going to be my new motto in life. We'll see.
Yep. Yep. It's good stuff. Well, there you go. There's a travel episode for you, gang. I hope you enjoyed much of that and learned some things about one of our favorite places, Key West. If you travel down US 1, you can drive there over the 6 Mile Bridge, or go to Fort Myers and you can take the ferry over if you don't want to drive that long way. So if you're on the West Coast, that's probably the easiest way to get there. Or fly in on a seaplane and enjoy that. Just yeah.
Fishing boats.
Fishing boats. Enjoy your days down there. It is a beautiful place. We love it. I like driving down because you get to go by Deer Key, where they have the little key deer that are like 2 feet tall and they're just adorable. Highly endangered species, but they protect them and you can actually see them very close. It's beautiful.
That's very cool.
Yep. So lots of fun stuff to do down in the Keys. And yeah, enjoy the Conch Republic. So Patreon members, thank you again, as always. Oh my gosh. And if you can join us, please go to the link in the description or at eerietravels.com. Throw us a buck or two if you got it, just sitting around if you're enjoying this stuff. We'd appreciate it. Also, you can go on our website and see where we're going to be. We're doing a lot of festivals and events. We've got some Bigfoot events coming up. We've got some UFO events coming up. We've got an amazing event in West Virginia that we can announce now. We are going to be at the Wasteland Jamboree for Fallout fans on May 2nd and 3rd. Yep. Come find us, bring your bottle caps. We'll have books and art. Some of the new stuff from the new
Yeah.
book be there, hopefully. And should. And then
Maybe.
maybe. We'll keep that as a big maybe. But we'd love for you to be there.
Yes,
And,
and make sure you bring your, what is it, Radaway?
yeah, bring your rat away.
Bring your
That is a
Radaway
tough
because we
area.
can't have any guarantees.
Yep, yep. And, all that said, yeah, I think the most fitting tribute to Key West is freaking Key West. I mean, it's a place where they can secede from the Union with a loaf of bread. Yeah. And, you could marry a ghost with obsession. It is a great place. And, that's Key West in a nutshell. And we'll see you on the other side.